People who went to school with celebrities before they were famous. What were they like? Brad Pitt went to my high school when my mom was there. She said he was really nice and kind of a nerd. Hung out with the other theater kids mostly. Went to junior high and high school with Taylor Lautner. Played football together my freshman year. Dude was really nice. And a bit awkward. This was before the whole Twilight thing. And he was most famous for Shark Boy and Love Actually. He seemed pretty much what you expect a theater kid to be like. But really nice dude overall. Pretty quiet. Played Pokemon Leaf Green together a few times. Is a terrorist famous? I went to school with Richard Reed, a shoe bomber. My mum used to feel sorry for his mum because his dad was a complete bastard when he wasn't in prison. Can't ever defend what he tried to do. But that kid never stood a chance. Was friends with Natalie Portman in first grade. Had a fake fur coat. Her mom would pack her lunch in lots of little containers with instructions on how to assemble them. That's all I remember. Went to primary school with Hugh Jackman. Was a freshman when Chris Pratt was a senior. We didn't interact much. But he was in a lot of the assemblies and I did tech theater for a play he was in. He was a goofball. Lots of charisma. Laid back. Class clown. About what you'd expect seeing him now. Tommy Hilfiger. Who was basically regarded as a trashy a-hole. He had approximately 100 siblings and I think they were all kind of that way. My mom was close friends with Winona Ryder in high school. She dressed in all black a lot and was made fun of by other kids. But my mom, her and a couple others were a pretty tight group. She said Winona used to eat salad for lunch a lot to diet. And she'd put a ton of dressing on it to the point that it wasn't even healthy anymore, haha. After her movie Heather she made them go and watch it together. She said she was really sweet. And Winona highlighted her picture in my mom's yearbook, which was pretty cool to see. Went to high school with Mac Miller. Dude was duckin' dedicated. He was selling CDs in school and always had posters up and stuff. We weren't really in the same social circles but we had some classes together. He was a goof and a generally good guy. R.I.P. Went to school with Eminem daughter in high school. Went to school with Khalid. He was one of those kids that always pretended to be stoned but never smoked. He acted very flamboyant and used that to always be around girls. Never made a move on them though. Strange fellow. I went to high school with the black kid in the wheelchair from Malcolm in the Middle. He was a DCK to everyone but always had a large group of people following him because he was famous. He was a DCK. Family friend still holds a grudge against Anne Hathaway for stealing her boyfriend in high school. My aunt and uncle lived next door to Patrick Stewart. He had a terrible childhood. His dad was traumatized during the war like so many were. He changed so much it became untenable and his mum used to send him to relatives to keep him safe. Very sad. He is a lovely man and he keeps in touch with friends he made many years ago. My husband knew Pete Wentz from Fall Out Boy. Back in the day they had some mutual friends. Said Wentz was a nice guy. Quote. Puked in my husband's car once after a rave. Lol. My friend's mom went to school with Tony Hawk. She said he was pretty chill. Went to high school with Aaron Judge of the Yankees. Was a specimen of an athlete at a very young age. I was older than him. But it was a small school so basically everyone knew everyone. Ran into him at a mutual friend's party the first year he was called up to the majors and the guy graciously accepted a congratulations, then began to ask about me and my life as the local bartender in our small ass town. Remembered my name and everything. Guy is extremely humble and an overall class act. My mom went to school with the current president of Serbia. She said he was quite nerdy and socially awkward, but I guess that's changed now. My best friend's mom went to college with Wes Anderson and yes, he was a total hipster. But he's this super humble dude. They run into each other in Dallas every once in a while and he says hi and buys her coffee as if he's not this huge director. Same for Owen Wilson. I went to school with Terry Crews for a couple years. Nice kid and a great artist. He and one other kid used to have drawing competitions before class started. Somebody would yell out a comic book character and he and the other kid, also a great artist, would both draw. I can't remember who was better because it was a lifetime ago. He punched me in the chest once at an assembly and totally winded me. I was being a DCK. So I had it coming. If Terry Crews punches you, you deserve it. Went to high school with Shawn Mendes. Nice kid. We all used to make fun of him a bit, but I guess the joke's on us now. I see him around at parties once in a while. Still a nice guy. Went to college with Logan Paul. We have these huge street parties every spring. They were ahead of their time. Can't believe no one has mentioned Drake yet. He went to my high school. Though in different grades, so I didn't know him. He was already famous from Degrassi High. And he was hilariously pompous. This school had quite a few rich families. And the rich kids loved him, of course. I mean, he was a very rich kid named Aubrey, living in a rich white Jewish area. His started from the bottom stuff in songs and street accent is hilariously fake. In college my mom dated Weird Al's best friend. She said he was super shy and reserved most of the time. But as soon as he entered the booth it was like a switch was flipped and he exploded with excitement and energy. I went to school 5th 12th grade with the son of Suzanne Collins, author of The Hunger Games. She came into my 5th grade class and we all got signed copies of her other book Gregor the Overlander. Didn't take off like THG did, that's for sure. Her son was super quiet and nerdy. Nice kid but just didn't talk. I remember his girlfriend was also a writer and a lot of us were convinced that she was only dating him to get close to his mom. Kelly Clarkson's family and a section of mine were really close before she got famous. I was originally introduced to her as another of my cousins. I have. And no. Over 71st and 2nd cousins. My family reunions are massive. She was pretty cool when we were kids. She's a couple years older than me but was always really nice. Down to earth. And big on church group stuff. My family has old videos of me and her singing together and of her singing for my aunt and uncle's wedding. All from before American Idol. No. I couldn't sing worth crap then or now. Jensen Ackles was a well-liked theater kid. Berkner High School FTW. Post Malone and I graduated from high school together. I even have a picture from when our art class recreated the Last Supper with McDonald's for someone's art project. He posed as Jesus and I was basically Judas. We weren't friends. But he was always friendly when we did speak. He had a very chill demeanor and always cracked jokes in our history class. I liked the dude. Went to school with the daughter of the president of the country. Technically it wasn't her who's famous. Outside of a few TV appearances during ceremonies and the inauguration. But it was funny. After her dad was elected. How we'd go for a lunch or something and she'd be stealthily pointing at inconspicuously looking men in plain clothes a few tables away who were the bodyguard's Secret Service. Then those guys would be trailing us 20-30 hiding in the crowd so as not to be obvious, etc. Weird experience overall. She was pretty down to earth. Her behavior didn't change at all, except leaving the school through the back door as the media. Roughly a week after the election. We're essentially camping in front of the main entrance trying to get an interview. My sister goes to the same uni, University of Michigan, as Barack Obama's daughter. Went to Long Beach Polytechnic High School with Snoop Dogg. But I got kicked out for smoking pot at school. Wait. You went to school with Snoop and you got kicked out for pot? Is this the mirror universe and nobody told me? I was in the same class as Bo Burnham. But I never met him except once when he dropped his stuff in the hallway and I picked it up for him. And I kick myself every day and think about what a missed opportunity it was. My parents went to Catholic high school with Chris Farley. Guess he acted the exact way off camera and got suspended once for showing his pecker to a nun. My mom tried repeatedly flirting with Jeffrey Dahmer just for him to grunt and walk away from her. Knew a guy that was high school classmates with Mike Myers. All that Wayne's World stuff was them in grade 11. I went to high school with James Gandolfini. Super nice and fun guy. R.I.P. Elementary school with Nick Jonas. There would always be like at least 10 girls at recess who would follow him around to hear him sing. Really sweet kid. Kind of quiet and kept to himself if I remember correctly. Not school. But I worked at the Michigan Renfest with Keegan Michael Key when I was 17 and he was 19. He was ducking hilarious. Sweet. Supportive. And just generally a great dude. It was really cool to watch him get all his breaks. And finally the sketch show. Which changed everything. We're still FB friends. But now I share that honor with about 5 million other people. I went to high school with Margot Robbie. We were pretty good friends but I haven't spoken to her in years. She was absolutely lovely. No one had a bad word to say about her. And she is very intelligent. Went to school with Justin Bieber. My mom and uncle went to high school with Green Day. Apparently their first show was the high school talent show of their little country town. They were way more punk at the beginning and were booed off stage apparently. Went to the same high school as The Weeknd. He graduated a year before I got there but I remember meeting him as 12-year-old at a local pizza place. Shout out Enrico's. He was PSS drunk and mad he got kicked out of the school's Friday Night Lights football game. Duck UMs. Birch. It was one of the first times in my life an older person was cool to me for no reason. Introduced himself, hey man I'm Abel. We talked a little. He knew my next door neighbor who was his age. Life's weird man. Kelly Clarkson once forgot to wear shoes to school and was sent home. To be fair. Country girls often drive without shoes. Amanda Bynes was pretty cool in elementary school. We had a Marvin the Martian thing. You and I may have some mutual friends if this wasn't tea. Oh. When Big Fat Liar came out I was working in a movie theater a town or two over. One day an old woman comes in wearing a big button pin with Amanda's face on it. She clearly was hoping people would ask about it. So I did. Well this is my granddaughter and I'm here to see her movie. It was adorable. Joel Rifkin went to the school I worked at. He became a serial killer. He was quiet. My daughter went to school with Amy Fisher. The Long Island Lolita. She famously shot the wife of her boyfriend. Who was Joey Buttafuoco. She was one of the only kids who had a pager back in the day. My mom went to high school with the main cast of Trailer Park Boys and they were pretty wild in real life too. My dad was John Legend's high school teacher in Ohio. Said he would play for other students and they would all gather around. Obligatory not me. But my mom went to high school with Dave Grohl. Knew him pretty casually. Said he was a total stoner. VP of the class. And would play music over the loudspeakers on occasion and was really good. Super nice. Super laid back guy. Really humble about how talented he is. Went to school with former MLB player and current Twins manager Rocco Baldelli. He would play softball with us after school sometimes on Fridays. Wasn't a jerk. Was a very down-to-earth guy. Good student. Saw him some years later at a local event and got his autograph. Was still a cool dude. Sucks his career wasn't as good as it could have been due to his mitochondrial disorder. But glad to see he's making up for it by having success in Minnesota. Edit. Ben and Casey Affleck. Both conceited. One day Ben overheard me telling my friend to meet me at the pack. He became visibly annoyed and yelled it's not Packard Park. Get it right people. Clearly he just came from a dialect lesson or something. He must have been around 12 at the time. Ninja was as much a tool then as he is now. Nothing really changed. Really fake. Tended to bully people. I know I'm getting old when I read this thread and can only think who the duck is that? Over half the responses. Didn't go to school with him. but had a ton of mutual friends and a casual passing friendship with Gerard Way. He lived the next town over from me. Really nice guy. Was glad to see him make it big. I went to the same high school as Lee Pace and was in the drama club with him my freshman year. I remember him being really funny and very talented. He was the one often held up as an example. He was also really nice. Once, I had a really terrible dramatic monologue at a competition. And afterwards he sat with me and went over all the notes he took and gave me advice on how to fix everything in a very supportive and constructive way. He didn't have to take the time to do that. Actually went to school with Cameron Boyce. He was really nice and we talked a few times. More acquaintances than friends, but I still knew him. My grandmother attended UT Austin when Janis Joplin attended. According to her, Timothy McVeigh grew up across the street from me. He was my older brother's age. My brother has the good stories. Stole dynamite from the rock quarry down the road and tried to ignite it. That show he was a little off. Overall a really nice guy. My brother is convinced that he met the wrong people when he went into the military. MGK cheated off me in sophomore biology. My brother went to high school with Taylor Swift. She was actually super mean to people and got booed off the stage at her junior year talent show. I lived a few doors down from some NHL players in college, Ryan McDonough and Kyle Turris. Didn't know either too well. But Ryan McDonough would come to my dorm to play NHL on Xbox once in a while. I ate lunch at the same table as Kyle Turris. That's about all the interaction we had, lol. Turris did sign a jersey for me and always seemed super nice. Some guys on the dorm floor that were friends with him got invited to his massive house in Phoenix a lot. I met McDonough at a signing a few years later, and though he didn't remember me, we chatted a bit about college and he was super nice as well. Went to school with Taye Diggs. He was as handsome and charming as he seems. Gregarious. Friendly. Always with a smile on his face. And always upbeat and positive. He had a natural charisma to him. Easygoing and genuine. I went to high school and was friends with Alan Tudyk. He was a really nice guy. Easy to get along with. And extremely funny. My mom went to the same high school, New York School of Arts or something, as Vincent D'Onofrio. Though they weren't in the same class. She said they didn't really talk at all and he seemed like kind of a weird guy. Demi Moore was also in her high school class. And she held her hair back while she was sick at a party once. Demi was much more popular than my mom and never really talked to her either. Went to HS with LaDainian Tomlinson. I was a sophomore. He was a senior. Pretty humble dude and got along with a lot of people. Just overall nice and didn't brag much. A girl from my high school class had sort of a one-hit wonder thing going. Her first single was a big hit. The next ones not so much. I found out that she'd removed me from her Facebook friends, and who knows? Others perhaps? After her single came out. Went to say congrats to her. Found out we weren't friends anymore. She then went on to defend her other singles album doing poorly on people being haters. Was she Rebecca Black? I went to school with a former Miss America. Conceited garbage. My father went to school with Ivan Millett. Australia's worst serial killer. I went to the same high school as Travis Barker several years apart. I went to school with Theo James. He was quite stuck up and it's hilarious now seeing him on Hugo Boss billboards in central London at various film front covers when I turn Netflix on. He was in my French class for about 4 years, but yeah. Bit of a posh sod as far as I recall. Went to school with Tyson Ritter from All American Rejects. We were in the same grade and rode the same school bus route. He was in orchestra for a few years. 2. He was always the class clown and getting in trouble for his antics. But he was a good kid. I went to several Prior shows. Drowning Fish was his early HS band. And he clearly had a great stage presence. I was so happy to see him succeed. And for so long. My mom is a teacher and her kids would always ask to see my ebooks. Lol. One of my best stoner buds in high school was David Lee Roth, John Muir Pasadena 70-72. He acted exactly as you'd imagine, pimped out like Mick Jagger. He'd hold court on the girls' field as we smoked fatties, telling us how he was going to be a big rock star. We'd reply, "Sure thing. Dave, now pass the damn joint." Dave had massive game even back then. We were rich white kids bussed into the intercity. And he was hooking up with young ladies of all colors. Dave and I were part of a progressive drama scene at Muir that cultivated not only a rock star, but an operatic diva and an Oscar-winning screenwriter. Though we're no longer friends 50 years later, he always makes me smile when I see his enthusiastic mug on TV and social media. I hung out with Billy Gibbons, ZZ Top, back in the day. Cool guy. Talented. Ton of fun. I'm super old so you may not know that band but you probably know the music. Lagrange is my all-time fave. Went to high school with Travis Scott. Was a year older than him. Played football together and partied together on many occasions. Dude was always cracking jokes and acting silly. But would have never thought he was going to be a superstar. Even after getting signed he still hung around with the same crew for a bit. Haven't seen him in a while. But last time I did we sat down and smoked a blunt and talked about his success. Jacques is a very cool dude. Growing up in the Toronto suburbs, myself and friends' family knew plenty of people from bands as well as future NHLers. An ex-girlfriend went to school with former WWE performer Santino. Nice guy all around when I met him a couple times back in the day. Glad he did well for himself. Went to grade school with Jason Spezza myself. Bit of an arrogant prick if you ask me, but you kind of have to be to make it as an athlete. We all went after his knees in gym class. When I was in bands we actually gave Death from Above 1979, or whatever they're called now, a spot on the bill of one of our local shows we put on. Well before they got more famous of course. Also Newell Scarlett, Cancer Bats, Alexis on Fire, Billy Talent. The End from the local mid-2000s music scene. All super nice guys. My dad went to school with Pam Anderson. Apparently her sister was much hotter back then and everyone wanted to date her instead of Pam. My dad even asked Pam out to eventually get to her sister. He was shut down. My friend's dad beat up Vanilla Ice in high school. My mom went to high school with Chris Christie. Said he was basically your typical popular baseball jock. Though he was very well liked by mostly everyone. He was their senior class president and a lot of people had him pegged for a career in politics. She didn't interact with him a lot, but attended a few parties where he was present and said he could be kind of a creep when he was drunk. He signed her senior year yearbook. Chris Christie has a period of life where he wasn't 400 pounds.